All right, let's jump right in. We are all hearing about the incredible promise of AI, right? But there's this massive, and I mean expensive problem lurking just under the surface of all that hype. And here's the kicker. It's not actually about the technology. It's about how it's being put into practice.
Take a look at this number, 70%. That's staggering. It means 70% of AI transformation projects just fail. They don't deliver on what they promised. Just let that sink in for a second. That's 7 out of every 10 projects. All that money, all that time, all that talent, just gone.
So yeah, that is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Why? Why is that number so incredibly high? You know, it's really easy to point fingers at the tech itself. Blame the algorithms, blame the data. But the real problem, it's something way more fundamental. It's a piece of the puzzle that most companies don't even know is missing.
Okay, so first up, let's really dig into this 70% problem. We got to get to the root cause of why this is happening everywhere. And I'll give you a hint, it's not what you probably think. This goes way, way beyond just the technical stuff.
And here's what the data shows, a really clear pattern. Companies get so focused on the shiny, new AI tech, they're mesmerized by it. But they totally forget about the foundation, the bedrock it needs to sit on. And that's something called operational discipline. You know, things like standardized processes, teams that actually coordinate with each other, ways to actually measure what's going on. Without that stuff, you're basically trying to build a skyscraper on a pile of sand. It's just doomed to fail.
Now, to be fair, most companies aren't just making this up as they go. They're trying to do the right thing. They turn to official guides like the well-respected NIST AI Risk Management Framework. But here's the thing. There's a huge critical gap in that guidance. Let's take a look.
And don't get me wrong, the NIST framework is great. It's fantastic, really. It gives you these 4 core functions: govern, map, measure, and manage. It's like a complete roadmap of what you're supposed to do to handle AI risks. It's a solid blueprint.
But, and this is a huge but, the framework makes one critical assumption. It just assumes that your company already has a solid, disciplined system in place to actually do all this stuff. And let's be honest, for most organizations, that's just not true.
Yeah, so NIST thinks you already have things like process discipline, standard ways of doing things, teams that work together perfectly. But the reality, for most places, it's more like organized chaos. It's the perfect analogy, really. Someone hands you a map to this amazing destination, but you don't have a car, there are no roads, and you never learned how to drive. The map is useless.
So if the framework is the map, how do we build the car? How do we pave the roads? Well, the answer comes from a place you might not expect. It comes from a field that has a 30-year track record of solving these exact kinds of messy, complicated problems: manufacturing. The solution is something called Integrated Process Excellence, or IPE for short. You can think of it as the missing piece, that operational layer we were talking about. It's the how-to guide. It takes all those great high-level ideas from NIST and turns them into something practical, something you can actually build and use day to day.
And this is the core idea, really. IP brings manufacturing-grade discipline to the AI era. It takes all those battle-tested ideas, rigor, predictability, quality control, that completely changed how we make cars, and it applies them to the world of AI.
All right, let's take this from theory to reality. Let's see how this actually works to fix some of the most common and, honestly, most painful problems that companies run into.
Okay, common problem number 1, the siloed implementation. Oh man, this is a classic. You've got IT doing their thing over here, legal over there, business units in another corner. Nobody's talking to each other, everyone has different goals, and the result? It's just chaos, predictable chaos.
So what's the IPE solution? It's actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. You create official cross-functional teams, and you give them process owners who are responsible for the whole thing, from start to finish. This isn't about just hoping people will work together. No, this builds collaboration right into the system. It hardwires it into how the work gets done.
All right, on to problem number 2, the metrics mirage. You've probably seen this. It's when teams use metrics that look great on a PowerPoint slide, but they're totally meaningless. They're vanity metrics. They don't have any real statistical backbone, and they don't lead to any actual action. They just hide the real problems.
To fix this, IPE brings in a powerhouse tool for manufacturing, statistical process control, or SPC. This gives you these visual charts that are statistically sound so you can see what's really going on. It helps you tell the difference between just random blips and a genuine problem that you need to fix. So your metrics stop being a mirage and start being a dashboard you can actually use.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But what about the bottom line? How does all this discipline actually translate into real business results? Well, this is where it gets really interesting.
First off, let's talk about speed. Because IIP gives you a proven, repeatable way of doing things, you get to stop the endless trial and error cycle. What that means is organizations are seeing a 40 to 60% drop in how long it takes to get these things running. That's huge. You get to value and to compliance so much faster.
And second, and this is the big one, folks, it completely flips that scary failure statistic on its head. Remember that 70% failure rate? By fixing the root problems we talked about, IPE boosts the success rate from a pretty sad 30% all the way up to a solid 70%. It fundamentally changes your odds of winning. And what does that look like in terms of money? Well, for a typical mid-sized company, when you add it all up, faster projects, higher success rates, less wasted time, it comes out to a net benefit of around $4.5 million. Not bad, right?
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. The NIST AI framework tells you what to do, and that's essential. But IPE shows you how to do it. It provides that missing piece, the engine that actually turns all those good intentions into reality.
And that really just leaves one final crucial question for you to think about. Is your AI strategy built on a foundation of hope, or is it built on a foundation of operational excellence? Because what we've seen today is that true, responsible AI, it doesn't just happen by accident. It has to be built, and it has to be built with discipline.